Good afternoon. My name is Christina Wood, and welcome to today's webinar, Performative Speaking, the Winning Conversation. Mike Jones will be joining us in just a moment. In the meantime, I will be sharing a few tips so that everyone can get the most out of this webinar. Some of you are listening to us on a computer, and some of you are listening to us by phone. If you are listening to us by phone, in addition to the phone number and access code, you were given an audio pin. This is a unique 3-digit number that will help identify you during the webinar so Mike knows who you are and you're able to participate and interact. Please take a moment to enter your audio pin now if you have not done so. Also, if you see a yellow triangle on the phone icon next to your name, please also re-enter your audio pin. If you need to get this information again, you just click on the telephone icon at the top of your screen and it'll give you all your information. Also, this webinar, ladies and gentlemen, is interactive. And the more you participate, the more everyone will benefit. Mike will be asking you questions during this webinar. So please take a moment to find the interact icon at the top of the screen and familiarize yourself with the drop-down bar. There's an icon on there that says raise your hand. Next to the image of that, you'll see a little hand. So when Mike is asking you about certain things, he's going to ask you to select that so he knows that you're willing to participate. So again, thank you for being here. Remember to participate and enjoy the information. Please stand by. Mike Jones will be with us in just a moment.
All right, so there we are. So again, good afternoon. Welcome to Discover Leadership Training's webinar on performative speaking, the winning conversation. We are glad that you're here. I trust that you will participate in the next hour or so, and I'm promising you that if you bring something to this party, there's very good likelihood that you're going to leave something with a benefit. So I absolutely look forward to you getting a benefit out of this process as well. So again, my name is Mike Jones, and I am the president of Discover Leadership Training. And for those of you that are not graduates of our program, we welcome you to the program as well. So let's jump right in here. And I really hope that you brought along a pen and a piece of paper because I'll be throwing a few things at you that you may want to take some notes and write some things down. And over the course of the webinar, I'll ask you to go to the interact button and either give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down on something, or actually hit the hand that represents that you will be participating, and we'll unmute your line and have you come in and share your particular thoughts about something that we may put out there in relation to this particular webinar. Okay, so here's the first question that I want to ask you, and I would have you answer this question for yourself. In fact, I'd have you write down the question and actually write down your answer to it. And we might take an opportunity to actually listen to your particular answer. So here is the question. The question that I would have you answer is, how do you know if the conversation that you are having with yourself is a winning conversation? So once again, the question is, how do you know, absolutely know, that the conversation that you are having with yourself is a winning conversation? So take a moment to just jot down your thoughts about that. So how do you know if the conversation that you've had so far today is going to lead you to a win, W-I-N, by the end of the day? And if you don't know, then we'll kind of talk about that as well. If you think you do, then write down why you think you know that conversation, that one that you've been having all day long, is going to end up creating a win. So what I'd like to do is just hear a few thoughts from a few people as it relates to how you know that you know that you know that you know that the conversation that you're having with yourself, or that you've had so far today, is leading you to a win by the end of this day. So go to that interact button if you'd like to just come in and share how you feel like you know that, and hit that little hand button. And we want to give you an opportunity to come in and share with us your thoughts. So I see a couple of you have hit that button, and I'd like to see a whole lot more of y'all actually interacting on this particular webinar, because there's an opportunity that you're going to gain something really, really cool from this webinar. But you always hear me say this: you got to bring some to get some out of every and anything that you do. So we're going to go out to California and listen to Mr. Chad Sneed. So Chad, you have the floor, my friend. Share with us how you know that you're having a winning conversation with yourself today.
Hey, Mike.
Hey.
Yeah, one of the easiest ways that I start to know is how I'm physically reacting. So am I feeling good? Am I feeling positive? Am I feeling energetic? Am I feeling down, slow, sluggish? Right away, that's telling me how my mental state is affecting my physical state, and then propelling me throughout the day.
Oh, that's absolutely beautiful. I can guarantee you somebody benefited from that, Chad, and will benefit a little bit more as we get into this. So thank you for having the courage to actually share. So thank you very much. We'd like to hear from at least one more. So go to that interact button and hit that hand sign. Chad is smoking hot. He's dead on as it relates to some of the things that we're going to be talking about during these few minutes that we have you doing this webinar. So we'd like to hear from one more person. And I know that I can see that there are a few graduates on here, and y'all know I don't mind calling you out. So it'd be nice for somebody to just go ahead and volunteer some thoughts here, and we can go with that. So I think that's Mr. Sean Gleason here in Houston, Texas, with Solvay Chemicals. Sean, would you share your thoughts with us, please?
Certainly. Good afternoon, Mike.
Good afternoon.
I would piggyback on Chad's thought. For me, it's really how I respond to events that come up throughout the day. If I'm letting the events get the better of me and get me down and get me discouraged, then I know the conversation, I know it's not working. So when things come in that are against my plan, if I'm still able to stay positive and reapproach them and change the approach, then I know my conversation is a winning conversation.
Oh, beautiful. Thank you, son. I mean, but between you and Chad, y'all, Chad, y'all could not have set this up in a much more perfect way for us to jump in here. Okay, so first of all, ladies and gentlemen, this is what I'm going to suggest as we get into this webinar. I am suggesting that most of you are in survival mode most days. So I just want to put that out there. We're going to kind of talk through exactly what I mean by that and give you an opportunity to see yourself in the context of this conversation. But I am submitting that most of you are in survival mode most days of your life. Okay, so let's first of all do what we do here at Discover Leadership Training. Let's talk about the outcome of this webinar. So first of all, the outcome that we are focused on is to create a positive, performative conversation that will create positive success that you are committed to. So let's talk about why that's going to be important, and I believe that you will be able to understand exactly why we're talking about this specific subject and how it will benefit you when you truly are awakened to some facts that we're going to connect to here. First of all, in the context of this conversation, we are focused on an understanding that it is important for us to be able to visualize the positive success that we are focused on, what it looks like. That is the only way we are going to know in this present moment that the conversation that we are having is going to lead us to a win, a W-I-N. So let me say that again before we move on. It's going to be important when I wake up in the morning to have a visual picture of whatever a success that I am focused on for this day, what it looks like. I've got to be able to visualize it and see it. I got to know what it looks like in order for me to know if the thoughts and the conversations that I am having with myself are creating a puzzle of pictures, a breadcrumb of pictures, a trending of pictures that will lead me to that. So I got to know that the actions that I am taking now ultimately lead to that picture. So let's take a look at the benefits that we're focused on for this short time that we're going to spend together today. So I'm going to suggest that some of the benefits that you will receive in the next 40 minutes or so is the ability to create a conversation in your mind that will produce positive energy. Understanding that energy and action follows thought. You will have the ability to produce positive actions. You'll have the ability to produce higher energy in a positive way, and you will be able to create deliberate positive futures for yourself while creating positive emotions. Those are a few of the benefits that I'm going to suggest that will be available to you as a result of participating in this webinar today. So let's take a look at the first slide that we're going to get into here, and we'll have a little discussion around this one. I'm going to suggest that you have control over the choices that you are making every day. In fact, I suggest that one of the greatest gifts that we as human beings have all received is the gift of choice. Now, when we make and start our day, our projects, our relationships with an attitude that is focused on a specific win, then we know that the energy and the attitudes created by that conversation is going to allow us more opportunities to experience a win. And we know when a conversation creeps in that is not going to be healthy in the context of that is actually occurring as well, because we know what the picture looks like. So we're talking about performative speaking. It is important for us to be aware before we go any further into this webinar is that the conversation that you are having with yourself is creating performance. It's either negative performance or it is positive performance. And again, the only way for us to know whether the speaking or the conversation that we're having with ourselves is positive or negative is we must have a win already created before we start the game. So let's go a little further here. One of the things that I want you to recognize as we get into this is one of the things that I like to use as a comparison when I'm talking about a subject like this. The conversation that we're having with ourselves produces energy and it produces actions. The energy and the actions that it will produce will have us find ourselves in one of two arenas. It will allow us to be in the arena of the flag, which is a negative performing conversation, because it is allowing us to sit on the sidelines and wait for circumstances for us to survive those circumstances. So let me just take one little step backwards and have you take a look at yourself and how you started today. We don't have to go any further to the past or the future. We can start with today. Unless you set a very specific winning conversation focused on a specific outcome for your day, then I am going to submit that you are living in a survival mode today. I'm not saying that you're not having some successes. I am saying that the successes that you are having are the result of you being able to step up to the plate in the context of a survival mode. Circumstance occurred, you focused on your outcome of getting through it and being positive while doing so. However, there is a difference between setting the picture or the outcome before the game begins. Every day that you begin your day, you open your eyes and you climb out of that bed, the game is on. The question is, how are you approaching the game? With an attitude to win or an attitude to survive? It is a much different experience. Now, if I can connect to what Sean and what Chad was saying, they know whether or not they're in a positive performing conversation by the way that you feel. And that is an absolute great indicator, that is an anchor in the moment that says this is not a healthy conversation. Where I would like for you to stop and really take a deeper dive is an awareness in that moment of what you are comparing those feelings to. Are they really a connection to a very specific outcome that you already had set, so you know that that is not heading in the right direction? Because this is what I'm going to suggest, and I promise I'll get back to it. When you have the outcome set prior to game time, there are many times that you'll never get to the feeling part of that negatively proactive conversation, because it doesn't get the opportunity to stick around long enough to have the feelings be the indicator that you're not in a positive proactive conversation. So let me say that again, because that was smoking hot. In fact, I'm giving myself a high five on that one. So you got to listen real carefully. If I am now in a position where the feelings are the actuator of me now becoming aware that I'm in a negative performing conversation, then it means that the actuator is now coming after the thoughts, which means that if I had a specific outcome set prior to game time, I'm going to know when the conversation begins before it produces the feelings as an actuator, and I can kill it before I even get that far down the road. So I want to stop on that point real quickly. I want to make sure everybody got that one. That was smoking hot in the context of where we're ultimately going to go here, and we'll come back to this flag of the win thing. So I want somebody to go to the interact button there and click on that hand that says, you know, I got something, Mike, or I didn't get something, I was confused by that, and I want some more information around that, or I got it, and let me reiterate it so I can make sure that I got it. So I just want to hear from a couple of people. So go to that interact button, click on that hand. I'd like to hear what you heard, because one of the things that I know as a human behavior expert is that it really doesn't matter what I say and it doesn't matter what I show you. What matters is what you're hearing and how you are processing and interpreting the things that you are receiving, because that's what you're going to go away and do something with. So let's make sure that everybody is really connecting in the context of the offering so far. So let me just get a couple of nice leaders to go to that drop down menu, interact button, hit that hand button, and would love to hear from a couple of you. And, kind of like our classes, sometimes some of the exact same people always raise their hands and jump up and get involved. But if it wouldn't be something that would be unusual or something that would be uncomfortable for you, I'm going to encourage you to put that hand up and jump in there real quick. So I want to take a moment to hear from Mr. John Seymour. So John, kind of share with me what you've heard so far. Let me make sure that I'm being clear here.
Well, I'm pretty sure that I didn't get much of it, Michael, but I'll make a stab at it anyhow.
Okay.
So what I heard was for me to ensure that I'm going to have a success today.
Is now unmuted.
What I'm going to do is have a picture in that I've set for at the start of the day to make a determination for what's going to be a win. And because I have that picture in mind, when I get to that situation in which there could be some feelings arise, I'm going to be able to say, oh, there are those feelings coming along. I'm on the wrong track. I'm going to stop that right away before they begin to take over what's happening for me in that moment. That's, I think, what I heard.
Beautiful, beautiful. Absolutely on track there, John. Thank you. So, Chad, let me hear from you again, Chad. I love hearing your thoughts anyway. So what'd you get from that, Chad?
Yeah, Mike, what I heard is that when I start my day with creating the outcome, creating the picture of what my win is going to be, as my day goes along, as circumstances appear, as conversations happen, I'm already going to know where I'm tracking for the day. So I'm going to know right away whether I'm tracking towards the picture I created or somewhere else before it gets even further down the line where I'm way off rails.
Oh, that's smoking hot, bro. Thank you. So yeah, let me just kind of reiterate that, and then I want to jump back in here. If I have a very specific outcome set, if I have a very specific picture of what my win looks like, my WIN looks like. We can even say my WIND, because that's ultimately what we're creating here, is being the win. If I know what it looks like, then I know when I just took that step, the step that I just took, I know if the picture that I am focused on getting to that is going to be my win, that whether or not that step is going to successfully move me in that direction. I do not have to wait to the end of the day to assess win or loss. I do not have to wait until midday to assess it. I know in the moment, based upon the performance of the conversation that I am having with myself. Now watch this. Let's just go a little deeper dive here. Every time I meet a person, I step into an environment, I am making an assessment of everything that is going on. That conversation that I am having with myself is creating the reality that I am living in right now. Because as human beings, we behave in accordance to what we perceive and we believe the truth is. And as soon as we make that assessment in that environment or that judgment of what's going on, we then create a reality before we take any actions at all, because the assessment created a picture. I am in that moment in survival mode. No matter what the picture is, I am in survival mode, whether it was something that could kill me or something that I could eat. I am in survival mode. So if I set the outcome, if I create the picture before the game starts, I am performing in a positive way. I am being the win. I am accepting 100% personal responsibility for what's going on in the relationship, for the direction of the relationship. I am the person that is making things happen, and I am doing it Deliberately. Oh, please write that word down. It is my absolute favorite word over the last 12 months of my life, because when I am deliberate, I know that I know why I just took those actions. I know why I just made that decision. I know what the picture looks like that I am trending to, and I am accepting 100% personal responsibility for the direction that I'm going, and I am making it happen. That is what a true game changer does. They are altering the future by altering every step of their journey, deliberately focused on a specific outcome. And here's one that I love talking about. Since I got married just a few months ago, I am deliberately focused on finding ways to constantly keep creating a positive relationship. Now, the thing that people always assume when they hear an outcome like that is that there has to be something negative in order for us to create something more positive. It's just the way that our brains work, because we have been practicing thinking that way. And please put a comma there, because I want to come back to that. Practicing to do things a certain way. I definitely want to touch that. But as a result of knowing that there is still some opportunity for more positiveness in the relationship, the more I get to know my wife, the more I understand her, the more I understand what it takes to be even more positive in the relationship and create more joy and happiness in the relationship. So I know what the picture looks like before I ever climb out of bed. I know the things that will make her smile, that will make her happy. So when I draw that picture, then it is easy for me to know that the step that I just made, the choice that I just made, the action that I just took is going to produce that picture. And every time I deliberately choose to create and manifest that picture, the one thing that I can tell you, as a person in the relationship, I gain more confidence in my ability to be able to create something here that is going to last a lifetime. So just one example for you. And where I wanted you to put the comma, I definitely want to say this. Whatever behaviors you are practicing every day, you are mastering those behaviors. So I want to say something that I would normally not say on a webinar. I would really do this in person, because sometimes it gets to some confusion. I want you to write something down. I want you to write down 3 letters. I-N-G. I-N-G. I want you to write down those 3 words. So I want to go to the next slide here, too, Stephen. So remember the ing. I'm going to come back to it in a moment. Now, when we create the picture, before we get out of bed, in our minds, we can lay there for a moment. Create this picture of an outcome. Maybe not the whole day and everything that you're going to touch or everything that you're going to experience, but the way to practice this is to pick one specific outcome. Whether it's something that's going to happen at work, something that's going to happen on the way to work, something that's going to be focused toward the end of your day, something that's going to happen throughout your day, something that's going to happen in a professional relationship or your personal relationship. Pick something to practice with. Create the picture, create the outcome. Once you have created the picture and the outcome, you have now contextualized whether or not the behavior and the conversation that you are having with yourself is positive or if it is negative. The one thing that I want you to know, if you don't walk away with anything else from this webinar today, is that the conversation that you are having with yourself is creating your reality. I don't care what the circumstance is, ladies and gentlemen. When a circumstance occurs, it is nothing more than a circumstance. When we then make a choice in relation to the circumstance, we then create our reality. Now, Stephen is sitting right here next to me. Something could happen in this room. I can make an assessment of it. I can make a choice regarding it. My reality was created. Stephen can make a different assessment of it based on his lens, his filter, his belief system, and make a choice and create a completely different reality. So what I want you to know is that the reality that you are experiencing experiencing in the things that you are doing in your life, they are not universal. In the context of this conversation, they are your reality, and they are a reality that you have control of. Oh my God, I need to say that again because I want you to get that. It is a reality that you are in control of. So check that conversation that you are having with yourself because it is producing the experience, the energy, the action, the emotion, the attitude that you are experiencing in this moment. So check the conversation and the context of the picture that you are focused on and that you have created. So I said a moment I wanted y'all to write down ing. Here's why. When you have the power to choose, what I want you to know is if you ever come up with words in the context of this conversation that end in ing, what that simply means, and I really hope you embrace this, is that in that moment, you are not committed to your outcome. You are not committed to the picture. You are not committed to a performative conversation, a winning conversation. You are not committed to be the win. Anytime ing shows up in this conversation at this level with the people that are on this call that I know have been awakened in whatever way that they have in their life, anytime ing shows up in the conversation, know for yourself in that moment that you are not committed to whatever that outcome is in that moment. I'm working on it. Then becomes an excuse. I'm trying. Then becomes an excuse that simply says, I'm not committed. So I want you to look at all of the words that could come up in the conversation around your commitment, your performative speaking, your outcomes that end in ing. And I can almost tell you in almost every one of those situations, they are generally going to be an excuse or they're going to indicate, and they're going to indicate that in that present moment, you are not 100% committed to that outcome. So again, I want to take a moment here to kind of stop and kind of hear what you've heard so far. So if a couple of people would run to that interact button and click on that hand, I would like to just kind of hear what you've heard before we go a step further here with the few moments that we have left here, about 18 minutes left here. So let me hear from a couple of y'all, if you will, please. Now there's Brian Frame and Brooke Childress. How about y'all? Why don't y'all come in here and talk to us? Thank you, Brian. I didn't mean to call you out like that, Brian, but let's see if we can get you on here. Hang on a second. So Brian, why don't you star 6 and see if that unmutes you real quickly? Well, that's a shame, Brian. I called you out and we can't even get you unmuted. Thank you for making the effort, though, Brian. Let's see if we can get a couple other folks here. My producer over here, Brian, was having a problem getting you to come up there. So let's see, who else do we have down there, Stephen? Now, you know, Dave McCullum Jr., I'm surprised you're not interacting with us here, bro. I mean, yeah. I think he's all the way up there in the Northwest, Pacific Northwest. Dave McCullum Jr., would you come in and talk to us here? Just like to hear what you've heard. Hey, Dave, can you hear me? All right. So I think my producer over here is the one that's having a user error, guys. So we're going to step into this a little bit further. So as we go to the next slide here, I just want you to know that the past experiences that you have had will not dictate whether or not the speaking or the conversation that you're having with yourself is going to produce a positive or negative result, or win or loss. And I'll tell you why. And I know sometimes people have a really hard time understanding this one. So I could have made a step yesterday focus on a completely different outcome that I'm focused on today, and it may not have moved me in a positive direction. And I'm going to give you an example of that here in a moment. Making that same choice today will produce a completely different outcome. So when I am coaching executives or team members or athletes, one of the things that I tell them, that I would tell every last one of you today, is that it is important to have a very short memory as it relates to the things that have happened in your life. I don't care if you perceive them as positive or if you perceive them as negative. Having a short memory allows you to be able to utilize something today that may have produced a completely different outcome for you on yesterday. So if you have now taken that action, that decision, that conversation, and you have put it over in your box of negatives, it may actually be a positive in another context. So as long as it's in that box that you have identified as negative stuff, then you may never, ever be able to utilize it in a positive way because of the frame that you have placed around it. So in the context of this conversation, the shorter the memory that I have in the context of focusing on my outcome, creating this picture, understanding that my performative speaking can be positive and negative, and making sure that I have contextualized the speaking or the conversation that I am having with myself by having set a very specific outcome, created a picture of what the win looks like. And one of the things that I would encourage you to do once you've created that picture is do what I like to refer to as mental reps. A mental rep is looking at the picture. Before you ever take any actions, create a conversation that would have you moving in your mind as you visualize this to that win, to that specific outcome. Visualize yourself doing it. Allow yourself to feel the emotions of it, the attitudes that are present while you are going through this mental prep. And when the time comes for you to actually get on the field and get in the game, you have already done some of the work because you've now overcome the inertia of whatever that sitting in that spot was before you got started. In your mind, you had already overcome the inertia and created some momentum that's now moving you to that particular win, that outcome, that focus, that picture. So one of the things that I want you to see as we kind of go a little further here, as we got about 10 minutes left, is that negative performative conversation versus a positive performative conversation. So I want you to think about this just for a second by way of an example of being able to dive a little deeper and show you the benefit of understanding whether or not the conversation that you're having with yourself will be positive, performative, or negative performative. So here's an example. So if you were on your way to a meeting, and on your way to the meeting, you got a flat tire during your commute. And I promise y'all, I wrote this about 2 weeks ago, but I had a flat tire this morning, and I laughed about it really, really hard. So you're on your way to a meeting, and you got a flat tire during your commute. What conversation would you have with yourself? So I'm not asking you, now that you've heard this webinar, now that we have you thinking a certain way, think about the you that showed up this morning prior to us beginning this webinar. If that event occurred to you, what would likely be the conversation that you would be having with yourself? And I tell you, a funny thing was, I was just in Charleston, South Carolina a couple of weeks ago, speaking to an organization there, and I got reined in and had to spend the night and got in a shuttle to the airport the next morning at 5:30 in the morning. And I'm accentuating 5:30 in the morning because the driver, as soon as I sat down in the shuttle, said out loud, after he had just read a text message, that Oh no, it's going to be one of those days at 5:30 in the morning. So I know y'all know with the 20 minutes that I spent in the back of that shuttle service that he received his own private coaching session all the way there. And then once it was over and done, I got out and I said to him, you know what? I hope this conversation is the worst thing that happens to you today. And he had a big smile on his face. I don't mind telling you that. But I want you to know that the conversation that we're having with ourselves creates our future. So if the conversation that I'm having with myself at 5:30 in the morning is that this is going to be a bad day, then energy and action follows thought. The picture that I have created in my mind is what a bad day looks like. I've likely had a few, and I've brought all of them into focus. And now the energy and the action that I have and the negative performing conversation that I'm in is now going to create that. And at the end of the day, I get to say, see, I told you. And it's going to keep working out that way. So let's take a look at what was possible and available to you in the conversations, whether it was positive or whether it was negative. So a positive performing conversation may be something like, I'm committed to do whatever it takes to get this tire changed. Still focused on that picture of getting to that meeting and doing whatever outcome it was that you had said, whatever that win was. A negative performing conversation may be, why does this always happen to me? And you know, anytime you see one of those absolute words show up in a conversation, what you immediately know is that the conversation is coming from emotion. Because generally, always happens to me is not going to be the truth. If that were the truth, you would be experiencing this every day. And this was probably the first flat tire that you had in 10 years. However, it always happens to me. A positive performing conversation could be, I deserve this opportunity and I will do everything within my power to get there on time. So they're still focused on that picture, that positive performing picture. There may be some things that occur that may not allow that to be your reality, but once it's said and done, baby, it's about how you played the game. It was about where your conversation was. It was about you doing 100% of what you could do to get to your positive picture, being the win, being proactive, being the game changer, the one that is altering that negative circumstance that just occurred. Or you could be in that negative performative conversation. I knew something would go wrong on a day like today. And again, if that's the conversation that you're having with yourself, what you can be awakened to in this moment that is that you had already created it before it occurred. I knew something would happen is a past tense conversation, which means that I was already looking at a picture that had this happen for me today, and now I just made myself right. I knew it was going to happen. Is everybody tracking with that? I wish I could hear all y'all say yes, but I didn't, but I felt you. So here we go. The positive performative conversation is that I will call ahead and let someone know. So, I mean, we don't have to go through all of these. You get the point. The point is, in every given moment, you are in a positively performing conversation with yourself, or you are in a negatively performing conversation with yourself. Energy and action is going to follow that conversation. So if I am now playing this game by deliberately setting a positive outcome, creating a positive picture of what the win looks like, the WIN, what it looks like, the emotions that I'm going to experience when I get there, the attitude that I'm going to have as a result, the joy that I'm going to feel as a result of having this win, then once I get started, if I have already created that, I have already created a positive attitude and energy within myself to actually begin the game. So I do this before I begin the game, and I've already showed up at game time with a winning attitude, with a winning conversation, with a winning focus, with a commitment to be the person who is altering any circumstance that occurs along my way en route to that picture in a positive way. And I want you to know in this present moment that every last one of you has that available to you in every situation. I would encourage you to find a positive outcome. I would begin it as soon as you get off the phone. Finish the day doing this and practice it. Because what I want you to know is that the behaviors that you are practicing in this moment are being mastered as you do them again and again and again and again. So deliberately start choosing the behaviors that are going to allow you to operate and perform at a higher level. And I tell you one thing I said to somebody in a coaching session this morning, and I would say it to all of you out loud, and I hope that you embrace it. The only habit that I would have you focus on developing is the habit to break habits. That's the only habit that I would have you focus on. I would have you focus on playing like a rookie every day, every relationship, every situation. Keeping your mind in a very conscious state so that you are awakened and aware of the choices that you are making and where those choices are leading you to. Because that conversation is going to perform. Those behaviors are going to perform. They are going to produce either a positive or a negative reality. And being the person who is accepting 100% personal responsibility for the reality that they are created is something that is available to you in this present moment. I know we have about 5 minutes left here. And before I go on to this next slide, I really would love to hear from a few of you. So if you'll go to that interact button, I'm hoping my producer can come through for me here. I'd like to hear from a couple of y'all. If you'll just tap on that hand and come in here and have a word or two with us real quickly. I think I just saw one of my friends on there from Alabama. I don't want to have to call her out, but I sure hope she comes in here. How about you, Brooke? Let's see if we can get you in here, Brooke. All right, so yeah, I think my producer's just having a little trouble with this one so far. So let me ask a question and see if I can get y'all to go to that interact button and either go thumbs up or thumbs down. How many of y'all actually understand and have gotten some value in deliberately creating the picture before you begin your day of what a win looks like? So just go to that interact button, either go thumbs up or thumbs down, so I can see at least whether or not we're kind of connecting here. Well, good. Okay, so let's clear those real quickly. Susan, let me ask another one. How many of you feel that you can see the benefit of actually beginning to play like this, and that it would actually begin to produce a much more positive result for you? If you believe that to be true, would you go to that interact button and give us a thumbs up, type a comment in there, or whatever it is that you want to do? Yeah. Okay, good. Okay, so let's see if we can finish this strong. We got about 10 minutes left here. The first step that I want you to understand that you really need to take is to, first of all, create the positive picture. So first of all, we all understand that there are 86,400 seconds in every day. Every day that we live, that we wake up, there are 86,400 seconds in every one of those days. Every choice that we make in every one of those seconds is going to produce a performative reality. It's either going to be a positive one or it's going to be a negative one. So the one thing that you got to be clear about is that you are having a conversation with yourself at all times as you're making assessments of things, as you're churning through things that have happened, as you're creating futures about what you think is going to happen. You are always in a conversation with yourself. You know, I said in one of my books that I wrote some time ago that when I was growing up, people had a belief system that said that if you talk to yourself, you are crazy. This is what I found out over the many years that I've been doing this. If you don't realize that you're talking to yourself, you're going to go crazy because you are having that conversation with yourself at all times. Being aware of that conversation, becoming conscious of the conversation, taking control of that conversation will produce a much different result for you than allowing yourself to live in survival mode. Whereas some of you have had a whole lot of wins, W-I-N, by operating in survival mode. However, I am saying to you, as a result of someone who practices this stuff on a daily basis, that those wins will become much more gratifying, that you will gain so much more self-confidence and what I like to call that swag by setting a very specific outcome and having the win happen because of you, not to you. So when it is happening to you, if you are practicing that way, then you won't have another win unless a circumstance occurs that you get to survive. But when you are practicing this deliberately, you can have wins every day. And again, I'm encouraging you to pick a specific area in your life, whether it's personal or professional or whatever it might be, that you can pick something very specific. The more specific it is, the more clearly defined the conversation will be that will create the positive, proactive results. So I'm encouraging you to do that. So one of the things that I want to say here before we go is that you have the choice to choose a positive or negative outcome for yourself in every given situation. Every day that you start, I'm going to suggest and I'm going to encourage you to start with a winning conversation, because when you do, more often than not, you are going to create a win. Now, you got to understand that as you are creating that better version of yourself, as you are deliberately working on you, it must come with the understanding that we don't have to wait for something to be wrong or something to be broken, for something to need to be fixed. We can deliberately choose to push ourselves out of that comfort zone and start creating a better version of ourselves. And I am absolutely telling you that that is occurring in every moment in the conversation that you're having with yourself. You're either constantly mastering behaviors that you've mastered up until now and feeling like this is just who I am, or you realize that this is just not who you are. It is who you are choosing to be. And if you want to be a better husband, a better wife, if you want to be a better friend or a better partner, if you want to be a better boss or a better team member, it begins with the conversation that you are having with yourself. All of those things are available to you, and you don't have to wait until it's wrong or broken or somebody feels like you need to get fixed in order for you to begin to deliberately choose to make this happen. I would encourage you in everything that you're doing in every moment of the day is to understand that the conversation that I'm having with myself right now is going to perform either positively or it's going to perform negatively. I can choose to make sure that this conversation performs in a positive way because I know that I am 100% in control of it. Nothing and no one outside of me is controlling this conversation. I am 100% in control of it. So I want you to know that I would absolutely love to make sure that when you are working on you're working out physically or you're working out mentally, that you have one of these incredible t-shirts on that we created that has a message on it, creating a better version of myself. I mean, what is wrong with that? I would encourage every person on the planet to work on creating a better version of themselves, not because there's anything wrong with them or that they're broken, but because we all occupy the largest room in the house, and that is a room for improvement. So in what way will you choose to improve today, my friends? Because I absolutely guarantee you that there's a better version of you inside of the person that you looked at in the mirror this morning. And I would encourage you to deliberately find a way to do that. So, Mike, do you have this message in one of your books? If so, which one? It's going to be, Liz, in the one that I'm writing right now. So thank you for asking. In fact, we just developed the cover for it, and we will be pre-selling it sometime soon. The title of the book is The Insanity is in the Sanity. So thank you for asking, Liz. And I certainly want everybody to go out and get that Creating a Better Version of My t-shirt, and we look forward to you actually getting a copy. They can get a copy of this webinar. Is that right, Stephen? So Liz, if you want a copy of the webinar, you can actually get a copy of it free, correct? Yeah, for free, and we'll provide that for you if you want to kind of churn back over and listen to this. And all of y'all know that I'm always available to connect with by text, by phone, by email. If you have any specific questions about the webinar, anything that you got from it, anything that you'd like to add to it, certainly feel free to reach out to me. All of my personal information is going to pop up here in just a moment. Our next webinar, well, okay, let's talk about this first. We're going to be in Salisbury, Maryland here next week, actually, doing a Game Changer class in Salisbury. So if you're in that area and you want a nice little refresher, if you're a graduate, you ought to come and be a part of that. If you've never had one of our programs, it's a good way to break into Discover Leadership Training, thinking, and the positive outcomes that we produce. There'll be a second one here in Houston on September the 24th. That will be the first version, I believe, of the one-day Game Changer program that we just created. Our next webinar will be Tuesday, September 15th at 2015 at 1 p.m. Central Time. The topic is Get It Right the First Time. Have you ever wondered why there's never enough time to get it right the first time? However, there is always time to do it again. If you've wondered that question, join us on September 15, 2015 at 1 p.m. Central Time. We're going to show you and demonstrate for you exactly why there are always do-overs in the context of what we're doing in both our personal as well as our professional lives. So I absolutely appreciate you giving us an hour of your time. I hope and pray to God that you benefited in some way from this webinar. For those of you that are in the city or somewhere close to the city, we'd love to see you at graduation this weekend. We have two classes, the Master Graduate class graduating on Saturday, and the Heart of a Samurai class for master graduates only will be graduating on Sunday. So look forward to seeing y'all at Ranning Cougar Ranch either Saturday or Sunday or both days, whichever you prefer. Again, thank each and every last one of you for taking the time to be with us today, and we look forward to seeing you and talking to you sometime in the very near future. I'm Mike Jones, Discover Leadership Training's president, and happy that you were here today. Have a great day.